This Week in South Baltimore.
Brought to you by
SouthBmore.com. All right, welcome back, everybody, to This Week in South Baltimore. This is episode 10, and today Kevin and I are very excited to bring a special guest, Dave Rather from Mother's Bar and Grill here in Federal Hill, and also owner of several other locations as well. But Dave's got some awesome stories to tell, how he started the business, and also going to talk about how things have been going through COVID and everything that's going on with our business community right now. So here's our interview with Dave Rather, interviewed by Kevin Lynch.
Hey, Dave. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me on.
And we're excited to have Dave on. Obviously, Mother's Federal Hill Grill is an institution in Federal Hill. Been there a long time. So I know Dave can give us a great perspective on the state of restaurants in the city, but he also has another location in Timonium and a location in Arnold/Smyrna Park. So he can kind of give us some good perspective on how the different counties are handling things and how things are going, and kind of let us know how you can kind of boost up the hospitality industry, which really needs our help. So, Dave, before we get started, tell us a little bit about the history of Mother's.
We're in our 24th year now, so it's been a long run. How Mother's got started is I was working up at Empty Pockets on Fort Avenue, which is now Highly Gunthers. So, I was learning how to kind of run a restaurant. I felt like I wanted to that was my calling, and that was something I should look into doing for a career. And I'd always been an entrepreneur, and ran a paper route when I was little. I know today's millennials probably don't know what that is, but used to deliver papers before high school in the morning. Used to mow lawns and shovel driveways and things like that. And then when I was out of college, I fell in love with New Orleans, and I started taking people down to Jazz Fest, and I took about 100 people down to Jazz Fest, and I'd bring bands up from New Orleans for New Year's Eve parties at like the Museum of Industry, and that all went pretty well. And people started asking me, where can we go every day to see your place? And my group was called Mom's Travel Club, and so I'm like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. I should look to do something every day. And about the same time, my brother was moving back from the Virgin Islands and had learned to become a good chef. So I had him work at Empty Pockets, and one of our regulars one day had told me that Muley's Bakery Diner was coming back on the market. So I talked to Mr. Muley. He gave a 29-year-old kid an opportunity to take over the place. I got a liquor license for it, and then tried to just pull together whatever money I could to finance the build out. And my general contractor filed bankruptcy in the middle of the job. He had some of my equipment. He wasn't letting it go. I had to kind of hire and piecemeal people to get it finished, and it was a struggle. I didn't have any money and didn't really have a way to get a good loan at that point. So I was able to pull it together and get it open. And we had lines from the first day, and we're packed right away. It went pretty well, and we were able to expand within the first 5 years and won a bunch of awards, and things went really well. And we did a big expansion into the back alley and created a second kitchen about 10 years in. And about 8 years ago, we opened our second location with Mark Boyd as a partner, rest in peace. And that's been a good location for us. It's a whole different demographic, more families, a little older clientele. And so that's been doing pretty well. And then we opened a third location in Timonium, be 5 years next month. And that's been, really good for us. We do a lot of food business up there, not as much bar business as we like, but it was doing really well right before the pandemic. And, we closed all of our locations for 6 weeks at the beginning of the pandemic. So that was difficult, but it's been a great run. More successful than I ever thought. Um, it's a lot of hard work. It's 7 days a week, but I kind of alluded to kind of staying on a elephant that's rumbling through the jungle. You kind of just hoping to stay on for the ride.
Awesome. And tell us about the name Mothers. How'd you come up with that?
Well, there's a party in New Orleans during Mardi Gras, and it's on Saturday night of Mardi Gras weekend, so it would have been this past Saturday, called Mom's Ball. And it's a real decadent party thrown by this loose crew of like bikers and partiers, and the Radiators, the famous band from New Orleans, were in the crew, and they played it every year. And one of my friends, Dave Geller, was a huge Radiators fan, and you had to know somebody in the crew to get tickets. And it was mandatory costumes. If you didn't wear a costume, you weren't allowed in. A lot of guys were in drag, like some of these bikers are in drag. Um, the theme that year was "It Ain't Easy Being This Sleazy," and it was just the craziest, best party I've ever been to. And I said, I got to bring some of this back to Mothers. And like my nickname in college was Mother, because I kind of planned parties and got people together, and was kind of the guy that would put the word out to everybody and get everybody to go to the same location. So kind of between those things that I came up with Mothers, and it just stuck.
Yeah, one of my best friends lives in New Orleans, and they are renovating a house right now and build an entire room just for their costumes. So I know how big the theme parties are down that way. And
They take their costumes real serious, real serious.
seen that, yeah, he's a manly guy, and I've seen him in a race down the street in a red dress. So it's definitely an area that can convince people to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Awesome. And what was Federal Hill like 24 years ago? Obviously, it's a lot different place now. So tell us what it was like, and was it a big risk taking a big investment on Federal Hill back then?
Well, when you don't have anything, you're not risking much, but it was a lot different. There was only a few places, and the main hub was Cross Street Market. And so every Friday night for happy hour from about 6 till 10, the place was packed. And if typically there was a line of about 50 people trying to get in. And between like 6 and 7, and then it would slow down a little bit. But at 10, they literally would scream at you to leave. And so then we had to figure out where we're going to go next. So really the only places to go were like Tio's, which is Tio Locos, which is now the Abbey Burger, and Turner's, which is the Crossbar. And they were these single townhouse, small little bars. And so, I mean, literally so many people you could barely squeeze through to get to the bathroom. And I'm like, man, we need another bar here. And about that same time, Rope Walk was getting started, and Boomerang, which is the Charles, was under construction. And I was lucky enough. I'd been looking in Kissling. I've been looking over in near Kissling's and Fells Point and in Canton and kind of all over the city for a location. But when I found the old Muley's location, I knew that was home, and I was lucky enough to get that and pull it all together to open it as Mothers.
Well, very cool. Here's a story for you. I will be turning 40 years old this May, and I was living in South Baltimore when I was 20 years old. And after midnight, the day I turned 21, I came into Mothers and sat at the bar and had a beer. My first beer at a bar. So the first 10 minutes I was 21 years old, I was in your bar.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, so I guess I've been going to Mothers for 18 plus years at this point. So yeah, obviously Federal Hill's seen a lot of new places. I would assume McGurk's probably joined the forces down there a little bit after that as well.
I think like 5 years after we opened, I can remember Paul, while he was building and under construction stuff, and he was drinking at Mothers. And yeah, it's come a long way. I mean, now there's like over 20 locations, and it's really, there's a lot more competition, and So it's made it harder, but we've been able to withstand, and I think our food business is what carries us through.
Awesome. And obviously, you guys are a big sports bar. You big Orioles and Ravens place. I know you guys support some of the Louisiana teams and get some other fan clubs in there. So just tell us, talk about the experience of the two Super Bowls the Ravens won, and how much fun and how much business came through for those.
While we were building, the Ravens were at Memorial Stadium. So the first year we opened was their first year at M&T, which was, I think, called PSI Net at that time. So, I was looking for something to do, and we, started thinking about the parking lot, and we came up with the name Purple Patio. We opened it, and it did okay. But the year we were going to the Super Bowl, we started to get a hard time from the city about the parking lot. And the mayor at the time was Martin O'Malley, and he said, "Listen, my court case was going to come up the week of the Super Bowl, and he didn't want any bad press, so he said, we'll postpone that, and then we'll deal with it after the Super Bowl, and we'll make sure the Purple Patio doesn't go away." So that was really cool. I actually saw him at the Super Bowl party, when we won it, and he had quite a few Guinness by then. So it's been a great thing. It's again taken on a life of its own. A bunch of players come by after the games. It's been a lot of fun. When you're going to a Super Bowl and you have a strong team like we did with a bunch of future Hall of Famers, you can feel the buzz, coming, and it was one of those years where we didn't have the best team. In fact, we went like 3 or 4 weeks without scoring a touchdown that year. But then we got hot towards the end of the year, and as a wild card, going into the playoffs. I can remember one of the old coaches coming in saying, we have as good a chance as anybody to go. We're getting hot at the right time. And we were able, to go to win all the playoff games, go to the Super Bowl. I mean, that whole time is so magical, and everybody's just, excited, and everybody's, working together towards the same thing, like, all walks of life, all, different people, all demographics are all rooting for the Ravens. So that whole, during the week we were slammed, and busy leading up to the weekend. And obviously the night before the games are all huge, but, the Super Bowl is so, so big. People were flying in from all over the country to watch it at Mother's. And we tented the parking lot and had a huge party out there. And typically the city and the fire marshal is real on top of capacities. So we kind of had to limit the capacity those days. But, everyone's just so fired up. I can remember at the end of the game after we won, people were dancing on the bar and, squirting beer everywhere and, just going crazy. Lucky enough, I was at the game, so I wasn't there to experience it, but I'm getting videos and stuff from home, and obviously communicating with everybody at home. So that was awesome, and just something we'll never forget. And round 2 was real unique as well, and we were getting a lot of international coverage. I can remember, newspapers and TV stations from England coming in to interview us. And, at that time, we were, it was real hot, and we were slammed for every game. And so Liquor Board said, "Hey, we're going to have to, keep everybody at a tight capacity, and we're going to be out in force again." So what I did was I sold tickets to get in to all of our regulars. So that way people that had been there all year could come and pay like $10 in advance, because we knew we were going to just be able to have a smaller crowd. I wanted to make sure it was all people that we knew and loved and, supported Mothers all year long. So we sold out a couple days before the game. And again, we were full everywhere, and just the vibe was amazing. And I'm sure you've seen some of the pictures out front on Charles Street after the game. I mean, there was probably 10,000-15,000 people out there. I mean, just the photos, and I have a big picture of it on the on my wall from that night. And it was just insane. It was crazy. I mean, I guess people were coming from all over to hang out and celebrate out in front, and we have some great photos, but it's just something I'll never forget.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a lot of fun. There was a lot of love out in those streets. There was nothing tense about it, and it was the third straight week it happened, because I remember I was out of town for the Denver game, and I saw people were partying in the streets, and then obviously after beating the Patriots, it happened again, and then those pictures from the Super Bowl win are just incredible, and I think I've definitely have kind of reposted one of the ones that took place from your guys' roof, but that one where, I mean, people are just stretched out probably all the way down to Ford Avenue.
It did start that week before against Denver when we, had that Mile High miracle, and everyone was just like amazed that we won. And it was just like a natural instinct. Everyone just ran outside and started jumping up and down. And then, so then the precedent had been set for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And people had made plans to go down to celebrate once we won. So special time.
Yeah, well, I know that was a highlight, but I know the last handful of years have been tough for Baltimore businesses, and especially the hospitality, when you take the unrest surrounding Freddie Gray, and then you have kind of a rise in crime and some quality of life issues around the city. And then, it seemed like things were getting back on track. And then you hit with this global pandemic. So I know it's been a tough time for all of you restaurateurs, and just from afar, I'm so impressed by the hard work and the scrappiness of all the business owners. We've been lucky not to lose a ton of businesses. So I guess I guess as much as you want to say, tell us, what has the last 9 months been like for at least starting with your Federal Hill business, and then maybe, mention the two other locations as well.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the Freddie Gray, riots and, the crime situation that we were facing before all this, because it really has, put a hurting on our industry. The crime over the last couple of years has been difficult, and it's really affected our convention business downtown. It affected people coming from Howard County, Anne Arundel County, Baltimore County to come support the bars and restaurants. So it's been difficult trying to break even and stay afloat during those times leading up to the pandemic. People are scared. So hopefully the new mayor and the new administration, they can kind of make people feel comfortable again. And, the 9 months is the pandemic, which I guess we're coming up on 11 months or about to be 12 months. We shut down on March 16th when the governor kind of shut down interior dining for our industry. And I just knew that, doing carry out and delivery was not going to make it for us. So we decided, and, I was concerned about my safety. My family all works at Mother's, my mother's family, and our team members, concerned about their safety. And, it was so new, we didn't really know what was going to happen. So we ended up closing for 6 weeks at each location, and just try to stay in touch with our key members. And we lost a lot of key management during that time, and just said, I don't want to come back into this industry. And you're right. The restaurant industry is some strong people. I've just been so impressed with, our industry and the different owners and the team members that run each location. They're hard workers. They, haven't really worried about their safety as much as just, providing food and drink for, the community. And so that's been real impressive to see. But it's been difficult. Obviously, it's a hard business anyway. Now we're working twice as hard and not making any money. So it's been difficult. We are in 3 different city and counties, so we have different regulations for each location that are changing pretty often. So just staying on top of the different protocols that we have to do. At one point, we weren't allowed open in the city for interior dining for 6 weeks in January and beginning of February. We had a 25% capacity inside in our Arnold location. And the only reason we had that is because 4 restaurateurs decided to sue the county executive to say he doesn't have the right to close us down, and won. They tried that in the city and lost. So we were at 25% capacity in Arnold and at 50% capacity in Baltimore County. And it was helpful that we had county locations during the closing of the city, because so many people were coming out from the city to eat and drink in the county locations. So that was helpful to those spots. Um, it was tough. Most of the restaurants on Charles Street were closed during that time, and I thought we'd be able to do enough business with carry out and delivery to to pay the bills, but we couldn't. I mean, we were barely surviving. I cut back on team members' hours and shifts, but I tried to keep as many people as I could working. So we stayed open, even though we weren't doing much business. And it was tough. Um, we got our own delivery van, and we made a pivot to do our own delivery because the third party apps take so much of our revenue that we started to do our own delivery. So I got a vehicle because a lot of my team members don't have cars, and so that was successful. And now all three of the county and city locations have limited the fees that the third party apps can charge us. So that's been helpful to stay afloat and pay our bills. Um, and I feel like we're in a good situation right now. I kind of feel like we're coming out, and there's little light to the tunnel. The business has kind of stabilized, and we're able to do enough to break even. And looking at the future and spring and summer, as hopefully more people are getting the vaccine, and cases are continuing to trend downward. I just saw yesterday we were less than 1,000 positive cases, and I hadn't seen that in a couple months. So I'm feeling better about things and feeling like we're moving in the right direction, and that we're going to be able to pull out of this, staying in business, and most of the other restaurants in Federal Hill will be able to make it through as well.
Awesome. So being able to be open for the 25% indoor and the 50% outdoor, I'm sure you guys would like those numbers to be up a little bit in capacity. That's a lot more sustainable than being completely closed for dining like you were a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it's amazing how much difference 25% makes. Not just the dine-in part of it. It just makes people feel like safer that, okay, we can come in and get carry out, or order delivery. So just all the numbers have gone up. But being able to do some inside really is the difference between losing money and breaking even. So even at 25%, it's been a huge help to us, and obviously 50% will be even more. But when you can't serve inside at all, people are just looking to go other places, even if they're not planning to dine inside.
Sure. And I forgot to add to the list of things that haven't gone your way over the last 5 years. The Orioles have been pretty bad in recent years, and the Ravens have turned it around here in the last 3 years. But there was a period of time where the Orioles stunk, the Ravens stunk, and obviously you had the other issues going on in the city. So I'm sure that makes a big difference for your business. And kind of the thought this year, where if the Orioles or the Ravens made some kind of big playoff run, well, it'd be great. Part of me was thinking, can we wait for like a year when like we can actually enjoy it? So I mean, how much impact does good Ravens, good Orioles make on your business?
Well, it's huge. Ravens are 8 business days all year long, or 10 business days, So that's huge for us. Obviously, having a playoff game that we couldn't open inside for was real weird, and cost us a lot of revenue. But I feel fortunate. A lot of restaurants aren't going to be able to make it through this, and I feel fortunate that we are. So I try not to look at the money that we lost. I try to just look at the future and be appreciative that my family's healthy, and that we're going to be able to pull through this thing. Orioles, it's such a different dynamic than the Ravens because there's so many more games. It doesn't have the intensity of football and the intense power drinking for 10 hours that football has. But what it does do is give us business every day, and maybe it's only $500 a day, but if you do that for 80 days, it adds up. And, it just would bring in extra business before the game, extra business after the game, the weekends, or if like Boston or the Yankees were in town, that would really help us, because the Orioles, weren't playing that well. And, So when the Orioles were bad, it definitely has reduced the business that we're doing with them by about 50%. We're still doing something, but not near as much. But one thing that hasn't calmed down is like the opening day. Orioles opening day has really changed, and I think maybe because they aren't that good, people didn't really care about going to the game. So over the last couple of years, no one went to the game. They just stayed and partied all day, and a lot of people take the day off. They start at 10 in the morning, and so the Orioles opening day has really kind of become like a purple patio or a Ravens game with people drinking all day and just really getting after it. So those days are huge for us. I'm wondering what's going to happen this April if we're going to be allowed to do anything. We did do some purple patios at the beginning of this Raven season where we were selling tables outside, had a DJ, had tents out there and TVs, and just had everybody spread out. And so that was okay, but nothing like the real thing. Hopefully mid-April we're able to, I don't know, maybe increase our capacity and do a few more people, and people will be excited to go to that game. But I'm really looking forward to next football season. I'm hoping we're out of this by next fall. I'm starting to see a lot of outdoor festivals get booked for the fall. Jazz Fest in New Orleans is booked for October. We do a trifecta festival up at Timonium Fairgrounds every year, and so that's booked for late September, and that's a lot of fun. So I'm hoping by September we're kind of making our way out of this thing. I mean, it'll be like a year and a half by then. It's hard to believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is a lot of optimism, as you said, with the combination of the numbers going down and the vaccinations going up. And it seems like when it's outdoor weather, the cases seem to go down as well, just as, we're not, huddled up indoors anymore. I'm sure these past, I guess, almost years been a lesson in efficiency and a lesson in evolving and getting creative. Have you learned anything during this period of time that's going to make you stronger going forward?
No, I mean, we've been able to limit our staff. So we've cut down on the number of staff, which cuts down on our overhead. So, that's a balance that you always, are trying to meet between giving good service, but not being overstaffed. We've, trimmed down our menu. A lot of things that don't carry well for delivery and carry out, we just took off our menu because, we wanted to have our best items. Now we're in the process of bringing them back on. Doing our own delivery, that's something that I think is going to continue for the future and be able to not use third-party, apps as much. But we can really only deliver to Federal Hill. So anybody that wants to get food in Uptown or in Canton, we still have to use the third-party apps because we don't have enough drivers to drive all the way back and forth from Canton on a busy Friday night. And we've been doing family meals as well. That's been okay. I'm not sure if that's something we'll continue doing. We have also been delivering alcohol, which hasn't been as big as you would think, but it definitely has helped supplement. We charge more than a liquor store, so you can really get the same thing for cheaper, but it's nice having it delivered, or if it's Sunday and the liquor stores are closed, it's something that, we'll do some more business on. We did like boozy snowballs last summer that were a big hit. And so we'll probably bring them back this summer and keep doing those because people seem to really like those. Yeah, we've been pivoting and, trying to come up with new ideas and just, looking at ways to stay efficient and keep overhead down.
Obviously, a new thing that's come to Federal Hill is these parklet dining spaces, or if you look at Cross Street, a portion of Cross Street was completely closed to vehicular traffic at times during the day for the outdoor dining. And obviously, you're a location that has some nice outdoor spaces already. But how do you feel about the parklets and kind of the closing of Cross Street? Has that been a plus for the neighborhood, in your opinion?
It's a little difficult. I know Paul from McGurk's has felt like it's hurt his business and hurt their dispensary on the other side of Cross Street. I think that we have such a difficult parking situation in Federal Hill that it needs to be used. I don't feel like, the market that pushed for the closing of Cross Street and then they didn't really do anything outside. I think if you're going to use it and you're going to have people set up, that it makes sense. But it's made it harder for parking. It's made it hard for deliveries to get to those locations. I like outdoor dining. I mean, we're doing outdoor in the Purple Patio, and that's been successful. I think it just needs to be done the right way and doesn't make sense to shut down streets if nobody's really using it. I know just some of my staff has had trouble finding parking because of the lack of parking once they've shut down the streets, and they're parking over on like West Street and near Sharp Leadenhall. and like it floods over there. So two of my staff members had their cars flooded and totaled from parking over there during a heavy rain. It's all these trickle down effects that make it harder for staff to find parking or, deliveries. They all park now in front of Mother's to deliver up Cross Street. And, you got like 5, semi trucks out there double parked, and then Charles Street, becomes real tight. Definitely some learning curves and some downsides to that. But, overall, yeah, I love sitting outside and would rather sit outside if I could. It's just a balance. And when you have so many different businesses in one area, some it affects negatively and some positively.
Sure. And I saw you guys got a little bit more innovative with how you used your parking lot for adding dining out there. Do you see that as something you'll use in the future, or do you think that'll return more to a parking lot?
It kind of blends with the parking needs. Like in the summer, we're not as busy and we don't have as many parking needs as we do in the winter when we're busier. So I'd like to keep it open, throughout the summers as, some more outdoor dining, and then turn it back into full-time parking in the winter when we need it more.
And I know live music is a passion of yours and something that has worked its way into Mother's. And certainly I know you've been involved in some of the festivals like jazz and blues. So, are you hopeful live music will return sometime soon? Is that something that's been successful in Federal Hill?
Like you said, it's a passion of mine. I own the 8x10 building, so I'm always supporting live music there, and that's like the mainstay. But when they're booked, we do some they get booked out 2 and 3 months in advance. So if somebody wants to book a show a month and a half out, then they're reaching out to us. I'm thinking about doing some renovations in my back alley to make it more accessible for live music, and have maybe a little bigger area for people to be in front of the bands, because it's fun, and it's something that happens earlier, before the bar crowds come out, so it can help our business. And a lot of people eat first, so especially when we do a New Orleans act that maybe attracts 35-year-olds plus. They typically eat dinner first and have some drinks. So it's an affluent crowd. It's great music that I'm friends with a lot of the artists, and be able to provide them a place and also do some revenue that we wouldn't do otherwise. It's been a win-win. So I'm hoping to expand on that a little bit once we come out of this thing. And I've already got some artists reaching out to us. And I'll also give you a little insight of something else cool that's going to be happening. Last September, we did a EDM concert over at M&T Stadium. It was sort of like a drive-in concert where, you had a stage and video screens, but the music was piped through your radio. So it wasn't super loud bass booming all throughout the neighborhoods. So the promoters, hired us to sell food and beverage at that. So they're planning on doing it next season or coming up in April. Whenever the Orioles aren't playing, they're looking to do something over there. So it's going to be a drive-in. They're going to show movies, and then we're going to have concerts over there and DJs and stuff. So it might be as many as 10 events a month throughout the whole spring, summer, and fall over at M&T. And it'll just be something cool to do outside that will bring some people down, and we hope to do some good revenue selling food and beverage up there.
That's awesome. Yeah, one of the things I've done during the pandemic is taking the kids down to that M&T Bank Stadium parking lot just to ride bikes and skateboards. And while I'm down there, it has me thinking, man, this is a big space. How can the city, how can the neighborhood kind of utilize this better? A lot that's empty most of the time. So that's encouraging to hear. There might be some more events down there. And you bring up a good point. I mean, so many of you restaurants, I'm sure, have been hurt badly by the lack of catering opportunities now too. Another tough thing you guys have been dealt.
Yeah. I mean, catering has been a huge part of our business. We have 2 private party rooms. And we've been doing a lot of stuff at the Museum of Industry. We've been catering a lot of weddings. I know people might not think like Mother's for a wedding, but if people want, more of a casual wedding, but good food, we've been doing really well, over there with some big events and big weddings. And it's so close that we can make our food at Mother's and bring it down. And not many other restaurants that are on the catering list can do that. our catering was really strong right before the pandemic, and we're still getting calls and emails about weddings and events coming up. I mean, as soon as the city allowed us to go back inside at 25%, we got about 5 emails from people wanting to have their birthday party. They wanted to have open bar and 23-year-old birthday party with a packed house and a lot of people drinking. Well, we got to say we're not quite there yet. You would have to be seated. You're only allowed to stay for an hour at this point. It's not going to be like it was for a little while, but it's encouraging. And people are pent up, especially like the younger generation in Federal Hill. They're done with this. When you're 23, 24, you feel invincible anyway. And not many young people have got, knocked down for the count with this virus. I mean, my son got it. He's 27, and it barely even affected him. So they're kind of done with it. It's been a little hard to keep them, seated at their tables, keep their masks on, to follow all the protocols. And that's another thing that I didn't bring up when we were talking about how strong our team members and the other people in the industry have been, not only trying to just keep efficient with good food and good service. We also have to become the social distancing police. Your people are wearing their mask and sitting at the table and only staying for an hour. And, a lot of times they want to really argue about it. Like it's our plan to kick them out after an hour. And so that's just made it harder on our managers that are working so hard and have a lot on their plate to also have to manage all the protocols and get the customers to follow the rules. It's been a challenge.
Let us know what can our listeners, what can people in Federal Hill and Greater Baltimore do to support the restaurant community through this time until we get back to normal and keep that going?
Well, Federal Hill has been pretty supportive. I think, just moving forward, obviously getting delivery directly from the restaurants if they offer it, that definitely helps them keep staff employed and pay the bills. Another good thing that's gone a long way is just positive reviews on social media. Everyone's quick to throw negative something up there, but a lot of times, they have 20 great meals from a location, and as soon as they have a bad one, they put that up there. But they don't really say anything about the 20 great meals, and so positive reviews, pats on the back, pictures. And we take a lot of pride in this. This is our careers. This is what we do for a living. So we take a lot of, it hurts when we get negative reviews, and we try hard not to, but not everything, is perfect, especially dealing with delivery. We could have something finished for 10 minutes before the driver picks it up, and it takes him 20 minutes to get to the customer's house. By then it's cold. That's kind of what happens with delivery. So calling and yelling at managers isn't really helpful. And so I think also just understanding that, our team members are going through a lot, and just being polite to them, and, making sure that you tip, and, everybody's got a tough times throughout this thing. It's not just the restaurant industry. I mean, everybody's dealing with different stresses and health concerns and business and work, and not taking it out on our staff and our team members is another good thing that could just help us, stay positive and work our way through this.
Absolutely. Well, happy Lundi Gras, a term I learned talking to you in our pre-show prep. How can people celebrate Mardi Gras with you guys?
We have a Mardi Gras menu at all 3 locations right now. We have all different types of New Orleans cuisine at each location. It's different. We always throw a Fat Tuesday party, so we'll be open tomorrow. We give out free cups of gumbo. So if you're in the neighborhood, if you buy anything, get a free cup of gumbo. We'll have beads and be playing New Orleans music, and just try to keep that party vibe going despite the restrictions that we have. And, so come out, have an abita, have some jambalaya, some gumbo, some king cake, and wear some beads and celebrate a little bit. And hopefully we're out of this thing for next Mardi Gras.
Well, Dave, thanks so much for joining us. Let's hope we have a great Orioles season, a great Ravens season. Let's hope that COVID becomes in the rearview mirror, and that we can get back to the Federal Hill in South Baltimore that everybody loves. And please, everybody, take his advice and support the restaurants, and be cool with the employees. And let's get back to what we all love.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and I'm looking forward for this thing to be over and sunny days.
Absolutely.
This Week in South Baltimore.
Brought to you by
SouthBaltimore.com.